All right. And we are live for tonight's episode of TableBreakers. Tonight we are covering in game politics. And your hosts, Baron G Rock, Jade, the Cigar DM, and Kai Marion will be joining Quick McRun Fast along with their discussion on how you can improve this for your own table. I'm your host, Quick McRun Fast, also known as Bruce, and I'll be swapping my name throughout the rest of the year as if you haven't figured that out already. But anyway, here's tonight's show. Take it away there, Jade.
Okay, so tonight we're talking about in-game or in-world politics and good ways to run them for your campaign. Be it a single politic edge with a single monarch or a single kingdom, or a multi-kingdom political intrigue. So, with that being said, how do you run political intrigue? We'll start with Kai. And Kai is silent. I wonder why that is.
The rant gods have said no.
No, his voice was working earlier, but suddenly his mic has quit working on him. It could be a
Check your,
local issue.
check your settings. Make sure it's on the right
Yep.
mic.
We'll switch over to the Cigar GM for right now.
Would you mind repeating the question? I kind of got lost in.
So, have you ever run or have you ever been in a political intrigue story or game?
Yeah, I've been in a political one. I've yet to run one because I like keeping my hair and pulling it out.
I know how you feel.
But yeah, I've been in a few. They're always fun. The problem and the grace of it is you got to make sure, in my opinion, if the entire party is like, yes, this is the right thing to do politically, this will help our kingdoms, let's go make friends or let's go take care of the problem, then I think in most part they go smoothly. When you have a party of six and two disagree, I'm like, no, let nature serve its course or whatever. It can get bumpy.
Okay. What about you, Garrett? Have you? I'm
I-
sorry, Baron.
I tend to keep the political intrigue to a minimum, just because I've found that sometimes folks don't quite enjoy it.
Okay. And why do you think folks don't quite enjoy it?
Actually, hold on one second.
Say again, Garrett.
Give me a second here.
All right. Well, while you're fiddling, let's go ahead and move on to Quick McFast Run, or Quick McRun Fast.
I'm going to have to give you that damn video so you can watch it and you can understand exactly what I'm referencing here. All right.
Put it in the Discord.
Okay. We are discussing tonight the effects that a political environment can have on the game table. And we're not going to talk about out of game politics. So if you came here to discuss Crimea or some bordering country over in the Eurasia area, you're shit out of luck. But what we're discussing tonight is how you can keep it to where you're going to focus on this for your gamers at your table. I'm going to bring the focus over to me real quick. So we have you have a game where you're discussing how your players are interacting with the world, and say they are in a feudal style government. So first thing you want to do is you want to have somebody in your group that probably is of a little bit of influence if you're trying to make your way towards a hoity-toity nobility crowd. Good luck with that, because people try that all the time, and this is what gossip is made for. Then say that you have somebody that's in the party that rolled nobility on their character generation, and so they've got nobility, they can do this, and so you realize that they've got an 8 charisma. Okay, as a GM, you don't tell them this, but a lot of nobility in historical context, these people are fucking their cousins. Okay, they keep the tree. It's a straight fork. It's a straight path. So I'm just saying
I mean, it happened.
it happens. It's happened a lot. So you have this situation where you can brutalize your player with it, but once he gets in contact with like the court and starts trying to do some maneuvering or such, he's going to realize like these people that are in charge of the little fiefdoms or in charge of the duchy, you you let them know that their political rivals are just as hampered as they are. Hey, Timmy the Lame has a 6 constitution to match your 7 charisma. So you're healthier than him. You're just unable to rationalize something with more than 2 syllables. So that's where it's going to go. You're going to be able to do things and be able to get your point across. But more than likely, if there's ever like a chance where you can take Timmy the Lame out back and you can explain to him why the grain in his province needs to be at a brokered result price for your people to purchase it, you do that. And I'm kind of getting into guilds a bit there, but I do want to get into guilds a bit because I think guilds, if you're running a feudal game, what you need to do is have some discussions with your players through the game speak about the guilds. Hey, there's Kai. So you discuss with them about the guilds, and I love doing shit with guilds because guilds are kind of like their own little mafias, their own little groups of family. But instead of fucking the same person in the same family like the nobility does, yeah, Indigo Dragon says Twitter's full of people with 6 intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. So the thing is that instead of that, the guilds are typically like more powerful families which have old money, and they look for people that have got like, hey, their kids are strong. Why don't we marry our son into that and get good grandkids or great grandkids? And they do that sort of thing. But get involved with the guilds and throw that at your players because let them play in that pool. That pool, I feel, is more volatile than dealing with nobility and bloodlines because the guilds, they don't fight over blood. They fight over the silver. Kai's back. And if Kai wants to talk or if Kai wants to interject, go ahead. I've only talked on one topic of government in games that I wanted to discuss. But if you guys want to discuss this or just get into this and sink your teeth in it and get deep on it, let's go.
Okay. Can you at least hear me now?
Yes.
Yes!
Absolutely.
Good.
Success.
I broke the cable to fix that, but yes, you might have saw that. But no. The question I had to ask is what granularity when you ask what level do I run politics on? I have to ask what level of granularity are you looking for an answer there?
Well, more specifically, like if you've run politics games or political intrigue games, what have you done and what did you like or dislike about it? I'm going to start there.
Okay, the answer is yes. I have run a lot of political intrigue games, and I tend to run the full gambit from local to baron dukedom to interplay between great houses that are under a single ruler to the greater political schemes that are happening between the great powers, and then with international conspiracies that are all operating in the background in the shadows that are trying to manipulate every single power into doing whatever, into either a conflict or with some other greater goal. All of it, all kind of balancing, all rolling. The thing is that most of the time players don't ever grasp the full scale of what's actually happening. So they only perceive a small window of it. And when they act, they're not thinking about how it's actually disrupting the entire great machine that's actually still running. And it's all rotating. So whenever they're thinking that they act local and the repercussions of their actions tend to radiate outward. And like throwing a pebble into the water, the splash is immense at the local, but you don't see it, but it's still happening at far distance but as they get higher level, their splashes get more and more and more intense to the point where they're drawn into the game of houses between of great houses, or the games of the great powers all having conflicts, or they're sitting here trying to save a small group. And in short, it's kind of this weird combination of having players just pick the level of that they want to engage. And sometimes you get that one player who comes in and does the Otto von Bismarck thing and goes, I'm going to unify his entire region under my control because we all have a common culture. I want one. So you have your Charlemagnes, you have your, but there's those players who just go, I like this little area. I want to develop my little area, and that's all I want to. And then but at that point, you're like, you just dial back the intrigue down to guilds and the local and the local merchants, and the local, and well, I'm only a small robber baron, so I have my little area. So you just deal with that, and you have little local barons. You know that one, and your duke is over you going, pay your taxes. No, pay your taxes. Okay. And it all kind of rolls out from there. So because I spend a lot of time being bored, I think about the bigger scheme, but I don't ever really make the players have to deal with it as much as others.
So that was just, asking in general, have you played in games or have you run games as far as the politics sides of things go, and, what things you liked and didn't like. Now, let's get into the weeds a bit.
Okay.
Let's go into, what is important to you when you run a political game or when you play in a political game? I'm sorry, my tongue got tangled there. What is important to you when you play in a political game?
For me? Okay.
Sure.
No, sorry. I'm sorry. Lead out with somebody else. Get back to me.
Okay, Cigar GM, what is important to you when we talk politics in legacy games? What things do you like to see as far as player agency go into permanently changing in the world?
Well, it depends on what setting I'm running with. If I am doing I'm going to use terms. I'm not trying to get into real politics. I'm going to use but these things have happened. If I'm doing a War of the Rose type game, where you have multiple families wanting to be the head poncho, head guy on the chair, or if I go swing more to not Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones.
War of the Roses 2.0.
Another very much War of the Roses styled gaming. I like when I run a campaign, if it's going to be like something like that, because I have to comment. I did run a political campaign, and it was the Game of Thrones one I ran years ago. I only ran it for a couple of weeks. That's why I forgot about it. But the politics aspects of it is I want the players to understand that what they're doing is helping the person that's above them. So if they help them, it helps. If they help the head guy, it helps them down the road. Now, with the legacy aspect of this, is these houses or these small factions that help the guy who's now sitting in king. Where's their family? Where are their families doing? What are the grandchildren? What are they doing? So I want them to build. I want them to use the game as a building blocks for the next generation by using like I said, War of Roses or there's a lot of different wars that have been out there that's been politically based, especially in the medieval era, of who wants to be in charge and who shouldn't be in charge.
Okay. Baron, what is important to you as far as a political game?
See, the thing is that I don't want to be bogged down.
Okay.
Plot hooks here and there are good, but I don't want to be so laid upon with the political intrigue and everything else, that it's like, it's kind of one of those things. I can't deal with it. Just walk away, type thing. I tend to prefer, having the political intrigue in there, but if that is going to be the primary, to make sure to let the players know off the bat that that's going to be our primary thing. We're playing a very political, and a lot of political intrigue in this game. So it's kind of one of those things, with a session 1/session 0, basically letting everyone giving that expectation. uh you don't want somebody who's going to walk in and be like, "Ooh, I'm gonna be able to just break everybody's faces and heads with my fists and everything else," when you're doing cloak and dagger type stuff in behind. I think that is a very big thing that some players, they do enjoy that. Some players are not so much aboard with that. So definitely making sure that you set that expectation. With me, like I said, I like the plot hooks, but I don't. I want to kind of, when I'm playing it, I want to be the outsider, kind of doing the moving back and forth. If you're looking at, like, I played a game with the fake wars, and being in that type spot where you can work with the summer fae, then go work with the winter fae. It was very Sealyport, this game. That type of thing. Doing the maneuvering, but you still had the political intrigue in there, because you were kind of, like the summer knight and the winter lady were trying to have an affair or something like that. Stuff that's not supposed to happen. That, for instance. Uh, I mean, working that side of it, I think, is okay. But like I said, if you start getting too bogged down in it, it's literally to me, it overall brings the game down.
Okay. Let's go to quick McRun fast. What's important to you when it comes to political intrigue games?
Well, hey Sherry, good to see you made it. Whenever I run a game, the first maybe 3 gatherings where the players and myself sit together, I don't really mention politics much. I don't mention things. I might say this person is in charge of the hold, or this person might be governor, here's the duke, blah, blah, blah. But I'll give them that name. And I don't really go further than that. But if the players start getting involved with, like, in-town politics, like being involved with a thieves guild per se, that's the door that opens right there. And I love the player that says, I don't want to be part of a guild. I want to be my own independent rogue. Okay, cool. Those guys get beat up more than Bruce Willis in any given movie.
I mean, you're not wrong.
They get it pushed in pretty hard. And so I really enjoy when I got a player like, I got Gregory in my games, and sometimes he plays this rogue and he wants to be an independent guy. And I don't really do the independent stuff too lightly. I mean, he had a delayed blast fireball put up his bum once. Literally. So, I mean, grapples are meant for one thing, and then, like, worse yet, like, you have high level games like that, and the guilds, the politics, all that stuff intertwines together. And I just use that as a giant spaghetti bowl where my players get to play in. Everything's connected. If you do a robbery, say like you're playing a rogue in my game, I want to steal from the nobility section of town. Okay. Well, you break into a house and you steal a 2,000 gold piece valued brooch and necklace combination. And you don't really know if it's magical or not because this is pre-3rd edition, but we'll just say that you do that. And so you do this, and maybe the person you stole it for is happy, but the person you stole it from is upset. And anybody who has a 2,000 gold piece necklace and brooch probably has a couple friends that are good in a scrap, or they can make your life a living hell. And I always hear from DMs that they have things like that happen in their game and there's no repercussions from it. There's no value to the players in their game because they're just in it for the lulz. I want the experience points. I want the treasure. I want to sell this stuff for high. It's going to be for 10,000 gold because I rolled a 30 charisma check. Give me my money, and they don't really have this repercussion that snaps back and gives them a small cold dose of reality. And you want to play with things like that. You do. And say if you're in a game where you're in a feudal system and you're working for a duke. Well, maybe you're making all these really big power plays for the duke. Maybe you've cleaned out a couple kobold caves and you've got a mine freed up. So now you have to go and deal with this guild of miners, the Pickman's Guild, and you've got to go deal with them and try to negotiate a way for them to go back to work now that the mines are free of the little critters and they just want to be safe. As a DM, you probably should throw the players in that negotiation process in a courtroom or in a smoky room somewhere where they have to actually role play. I would love that. And I want to hear people talk about how they were in the middle of a discussion and one of the players is getting bored, but one of the other players said, I'm going to get involved with this. I'm going to voice my opinion. And when the players start to voice their opinion during a negotiation like that, what would normally be like a totally dry Star Trek Next Generation, two alien species getting together, thanks to Jean-Luc Picard making a 30 on his charisma check. Pay me, fucker. That's when you know you've got the players in your hand. And that's really what, as a GM, you should be doing that more and more often instead of letting the players just get away with wanton murder and murder hobo. You can do that. You can have catharsis if you want, but I think it'd be a more rewarding game if the players were able to actually help and push people into positions to where they would feel like they were where they're supposed to be at. And so give your players more opportunities to flex their chops, not just their sword arm, not just their ability to say magic missile. Don't do that. Just let them get more involved with it. And if the players that you have don't want to get involved with that, just let them know, okay, for about 15 minutes, you're in a room with these people and summarize the events and say, at the end of it all, you guys are falling asleep, make a charisma check real quick, see if you can help these guys out. Hey, guess what? You rolled a 20 on your charisma. You're not such a bad orator. You're just very dull as a player. Okay, did a good job. So let's give you 200 XP and next scene. All right, you're in front of the kobold caves. You ready, murder hobos? And give them what they want. Let them do that, but let them know that like you missed an opportunity. You could have made more than 200 XP. No, if you would have gotten involved with that guild, there's a whole bunch of dominoes that could have fallen a different way. But instead, you've done this. And if the players are really getting into helping out the Duke, because the Duke has some really nice prospects for help, and he's always asking players, hey, I know I lean on you a lot, but can you help me out? Say there's another neighboring province who wants the king's favor that the Duke currently has. Your players at that table just became a target. So that's just a way for you to introduce a couple kill teams, and your players are enjoying themselves or having a nice lap of luxury. They're having the greatest in rooms. They've got a couple bed warmers that are smoking hot, and they're forever barren, so you don't have to worry about like having them give kids or nothing because your players are a bunch of toads and they never want to have kids. They just want to murder fucking goblins all day. I'm a paladin. I murder goblins. That sort of thing. But all of a sudden, the players are sleeping one night. And that's when you get as a DM, I need you to roll a perception check. While I'm sleeping, you get a -10 to that. What? A -10. And let them have that moment where they kind of panic and they don't know what's going on. And then make your rolls in secret. Don't forget, if you're playing Pathfinder, to wait for the allocated 18 seconds for the death strike from the assassins. And once that happens, and I need what's your fortitude save bonus? I need to roll this in private. What?
Not
I need to know. I'll look it up. We're all on Hero Labs. We're a bunch of chodes. So we get on Hero Labs, and oh look, Timmy's got a +5 on his fortitude save. And since he's sleeping, I'm going to give him a +3 because he's kind of supine and he's not moving around too much. He's not having a very exciting nocturnal mission. He's just kind of supine and just laying there. Okay, he gets a +3. Oh, he rolled a 14. That's not enough to save versus the death strike from the assassin. Timmy, I'm going to remove you from the StreamYards. You're going to be in the back room for a while. I'll explain to you here in a bit what happened. Remove him from the scene. Or tell him, leave the room, or manage to keep your pie hole shut. Don't be texting the players. And watch that player go nuts as the rest of the party is attacked. And maybe somebody hears the assassin sneaking from bed to bed. Probably not. If somebody's made a good assassin, you as a DM should take notes and figure out how to do the same thing. Because you are a dungeon master. You should know the game rules, right? And let the players have that moment where they're like, oh my God, I survived the assassin's attack. I was the only one on the party to survive. Rebuild your party. But you do some sort of thing like that and let the players be that power player for the Duke and let them feel like the heroes, but also let them feel like you're a target. You've got a mark on you. And let them know. John Leah says, I have a problem with local lords extension having fealty. They're extorting fealty from players for no reason. Is there anything more than your big coffers you make me as a player want to work for you do? Well, if the players are an adventuring cast, John Leah, what you want to do is you want to have him lean on them and say, instead of like paying my monthly fee, could I put you to work and have you do some things for me? Because I do have a stack of things that will need to be solved or fixed. And since you're a specialist, I'll even pay you a little bit of money instead of just letting you go free on taxes. How does that sound? And the reason why you want to do that, you do want to have the local lords kind of have the ability to lean on the players a bit. You do want to make them feel like, I'm under some fuck. And you want to do that because they're a lord. That's what local lords do. And if the players don't want to have that, let them level up enough, and then they can have a regicide. Oh, wait, did I say that? All right, go ahead. Somebody else. Yeah. Jay, do you want to take us, or do you want Cigar DM?
I think Kai is going to be up next.
Okay.
I almost follow Bruce's playbook for the how to get things started pretty close to that one. I was actually kind of surprised to go, that's almost what I do verbatim. And it's the players are the ones who decide to tell me which groups they're interested in and how things evolve. Now, because of the fact that I tend to get a bit overzealous with now, what I'm shooting for when I'm running comes down almost exclusively to stakes. That's what's most important to me is what are the stakes involved? I don't want to have my politics game be this, I need you to go take care of this small little thing. Like, no. Yeah, the local lord may only have a small problem, but there's bigger fish. There's always a bigger fish. And so therefore, if my players are going, I care about politics, you better believe I'm going to roll out everything, crusades, religious inquisitions, a naval blockade, a pirate armada. Everyone's got a goal. Everyone's got an agenda. And if you want to talk to them, if you want to play this, there's this grand balancing act where you're just trying to put out fires. And I've had players who love seeing how long they can hold back the inevitable tide of, the incoming tide. They're the ones who stand out their water. They know they're going to lose at some point. Something bad's going to break. The dragon, some dimensional horror is going to break through. A dragonkin army is going to arise. the Dark Lord's is going to return. They're sitting here holding back entropy through politics and through some adventuring on the side. And like, maybe if we go in and cut the head off of a major villain, because everything's pointing towards this is probably, if we can head off this through adventuring and being heroes, we can maintain the status quo for a little bit longer. And here's me going, you do realize this ultimately will fail, right? And yeah, but it's fun seeing how long you can make it last. And maybe you can start throwing in secret societies. I'm like more than happy to go. Keep upping the stakes. Like, if the players, never let the players get content. Let them know there's always someone out there hunting them in the shadows, being out there trying to counter them, out there to work with them. That if they're trying to become, leaders of the underworld, and they've managed to beat down the local underworld crime lords, show them that, you know what, there's something bigger out there. They're going to come for you. Are you the best merchant prince in the world? There's someone out there who's somewhere else who wants to come in. There's a reason why I have Rule Britannia on like speed dial on my phone, where like in the distance you can hear this sound, and it's like, what's that distant sound? Trust me, there's always a bigger colony ship going to show up someday, and they're going to be like, they're going to kick your shit in. Just wait for it. And like, but we don't want that. Can you stop it? We could try.
Do you remember the Yuzon Vong?
Yes. Yes. And in the background, but I always use, like throughout history, it's like, and there you are having your little internal dialogue, and then suddenly the British Empire arrives, and everything goes to shit, because why? The British just arrived. And therefore, I kind of, was that?
Yeah, there goes the neighborhood.
And there goes the neighborhood. Why? And that's why when you hear Rule Britannia, oh fuck, here it comes, and then suddenly your shit's kicked in. And I have plenty of them that I can just roll out and go, here's the local problem, and crime lords, merchant princes, hell, even within your own country's ranks. Why I design out 3 or 4 houses that all have their subsidiary lords who are under them. So that way you're never without somebody who wants to stab you in the back. And there's always a ninja if you get a little too out of a ninja, or an assassin who just shows up and ganks you, or you're just eating your food one day and, oh, well, oops, you didn't pay for that tester, did you? No, oops. And it just ends badly for you. So therefore, it's always about the stakes. And the players should always, it should never be about, well, I just want more money. Well, fuck, if you want more money, go stab a bitch. Go out and stab a goblin. You can get money that way, or open a coffee shop if that's all you want is money. Well, I want prestige. Ah, now we're talking. I want glory. Okay, now we're going to say, but how are you going to get glory? How are you going to get prestige? How are you going to get all on the land? That land has to belong to somebody. Well, I'm going to go out in the middle of nowhere and take it. Ooh, well, the locals don't like you. Well, I don't care. This area doesn't have a flag in it yet. Ah, you believe in the classic no flag, no country scheme. I understand. Unfortunately, the locals don't have flags, and they don't like you. Oh, this is going to, like I said, gotta make it interesting. Gotta give them depth. Gotta give them fun. Heck, or even if a monster shows up and goes, I'm slightly more intelligent than the average monster. Would you like to talk? Yes. About what? My culture is completely different from yours. I don't want cash. Well, can I pay you for it? No. Ah, shit. And now you got players that had to start talking about shit, and that deal they make might come back to haunt them 3 or 4 or 8 adventures later, when suddenly the bugbear ambassador shows up and goes, you didn't give us our tithe of dead cows. I didn't know I had to keep giving you those. Yeah, you do. What's that mean now? Bugbears everywhere. What? Oh shoot! And they're owlbear buddies. Oh fuck! And fun things can keep happening because you just have players who are working really, really hard. And yes, I do aim for the idea that if I'm not running a game that's a Martin level game or would be befitting of saying, BattleTech or like clans, clans of great houses everywhere, or if it's not
did I hear BattleTech reference?
Yes.
Drink.
Yes. Or if it's not, or if it's Seven Seas or something like, if I can't recreate, European politics, approximately 1400s to 1800s, I'm not doing my job right. I want people to.
Are you
Yes?
trying to say that's a good?
You cut out there.
Mr. Roboto.
Is it are you trying to say that is a very good part of the story?
Story and yeah, I know. Shots fired. Get the fuck out.
So I think those are all really good points. I think NPCs, if you're going to run politics, you have to be aware of what the NPC wants, and otherwise they're just one-dimensional, and the story or campaign doesn't go anywhere, and they are nothing but an ATM that gives you side quests. NPCs need to have a goal. They don't have to express that goal to the players. As a matter of fact, it's better if they don't express their goals to the players. Keeps kind of that intrigue or mystery in the game. Keeps the players going, okay, what is the point of all this? And it forces them to try to figure that out. You also have to give your NPCs, an attitude or disposition about the goal and towards the people who are working for them. It could be that they don't really care for the PCs, but they know they have to work with them, so they're a little kind of disgruntled by that fact. But you also have to consider, as far as the NPCs and in the politics in play, what's at risk if they don't succeed their goal, or if they do succeed at their goal. What kind of quests or continuations to these factors come into play, especially in legacy style games, where you might say that this one king is trying to gain immortality. He doesn't quite understand how, but that's his goal. And the PCs are helping him by going and finding all these rare herbs and artifacts and magic stuff. And he's been really friendly towards the PCs, only to, at one point, decide, okay, you know what? I'm going to explore lichdom because, well, immortal kings, lichdom, they kind of go hand in hand. And the risk is, the PCs finding out through all of these little side missions and quests that the king was heading for lichdom the entire time. And fast forward the next 20 years after they defeat the Lich, but never find the phylactery because, I'm sorry, if you're fighting a Lich, you are not going to find his phylactery. If you do, the GM's being nice and allowing you to have a piece of cake that you can have and eat too. The Liches, you should never just find the phylactery. It should be an entirely separate quest and or crusade to find that damn thing. And it should be near impossible to destroy. But I digress. Fast forward 50 years into the future, after the main heroes helped this king and then subsequently defeated him in becoming a Lich. What about their their descendants? Now they have this rising evil in the West, and they're like, we don't know what's going on over there, but there's a lot of undead coming from that direction. What do we do? Turns out it was the Lich that came back. Just like that cat. So, how do we keep things interesting in legacy style political games and political theater? I'm going to turn this over to the Cigar GM.
I think you're right. I think the first, if you're going to make this a legacy game, I think the first setup is I want the heroes doing something that I think is noble. The king his king's daughter has got a rare disease. The only way to save her is to find blank blankety blank blank. And by doing this, the king lies and takes the magical blankety blank blank himself. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough mercury to put the bastard down, and he becomes a lich or something of that nature. Then the party stops him. Then you hit the pause button. 2 generations later, he rears back up. I think having a hook of that for at least the first couple times you're having the same table together is a great idea. I also think that a DM should read other. I'm a big Machiavelli fan. I like Machiavelli. I think when it comes to medieval politics, he really put the hammer to the head. And so, if you're doing that, you should do research. Lots and lots of research of what kind of medieval politics that you could do or have in your party, or if it's saving the day because Princess Mushroom needs you to, or you have a person in your party that has been turned and decides that he wants to rule the world himself. These are things that can keep building and building and building steam until you get to the end of the world or the next generation. That's what I got.
Okay. To the Baron. Hopefully the internet holds together long enough for you. Uh-oh, now you're silent. There you go. Nope, still silent.
Somebody hurry up. His freckles are running out. He needs more souls.
Souls that power the internet.
What was the question one more time?
So the question is, how do we keep things interesting in a political game, especially with the aspect of legacy in mind? How do we keep it interesting?
Well, if you're going to be doing some kind of legacy and you know you're going to be doing legacy, drop things in that are going to come later. It does, even if they're legends or, whatever, that, little itty bitty things of, oh, well, every 1,000 years, there's a story that the dead shall rise again, and it's been almost 1,000 years. And the tide of undead are going to be upon us. Even if it's the crazy guy in the center of town, like what you see in most shows with the sign, the end is nigh, type of guy, the crazy, the end of the world guy, that is perfectly plausible. Whether or not it actually happens to in that game doesn't matter. When you get into a legacy game, then you can pull out, the guy's great grandson is standing there going, "The end is nigh," yeah. It's still, the guy's great grandson still holding it up, saying, "Yeah, we're all gonna die," And of course, if I say that, I got to say it correctly. We're all gonna die. Those of us who played with in certain games know exactly who that is. But essentially is, you can drop little crumbs, especially if you're doing a legacy game. You should be dropping crumbs anyway, because these are the moments when the players look back at you and go, "Really?" Because I actually do that to one of our GMs when he runs Exalted all the time, because he'll tie something in from a game that we maybe had 2 years ago, and I'm looking at him like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Really?" And it's just one of those aha moments, and it's also what I would say an attention getter, because especially if they remember that. Bruce, your wife's calling you.
I'll call him later.
But yeah, I mean, it gives you those aha moments. It's the attention getters also. So especially if it looks like the players kind of get, and then you throw out, one of those breadcrumbs again, that ties to something. All of a sudden, they're all like, wait a second, hold on, what's what's going on with this? And they tend to perk up a little bit more. You know, I think in especially like we're talking like C type games, you have to have those in order to keep your players interested. You have to have those nice little Easter eggs, I guess is the best way to put it, that they have in there to make.
I think we're losing you there, Baron.
Okay,
The internet's cutting out on you. Sorry about that, man. So for those of us who are still unaware, Baron is still away from home, away from his office, training in the lovely, lovely Midwest with really, really poor internet this time around. Well, while he waits for his bandwidth to regenerate, why don't we move to Quick McRun Fast?
You want to keep it going. You want to keep things kind of. You don't let the players get grass under their feet. First off, great way to do that is there's an old Pathfinder. Yep, back there again. If you want to drink, go ahead and drink. I'm not drinking for that though. There's an old Pathfinder campaign called Kingmaker.
They're all drink.
I don't have enough drink for that one.
Kingmaker is the campaign path where the players were saviors of a land or colonists or imperialists, however you want to look at it. And then
All of the above.
They had moments where they had to spend like a week at home every month to do political stuff and die rolling. Lots of die rolling. Oh, do we have stability? No. Okay. Fuck. And you would constantly keep the players, on their toes as to how they could improve things. And it was a fun little campaign, but it didn't really hit with me until book 4 out of 6. And that was where it really shines. It really does a good job of throwing little narrative pieces into the 12th level player lives. And the way that I want to give you an example for how you keep your players on their toes by talking about in Kingmaker, when they're out and about and colonizing the land and doing things to put more of the people that are around them, give them a reason to be around them. Say you should live here because our taxes are low, or we have festivals every week, or we have a very diverse group of gods which you could follow. Whatever your sales pitch is, other people would be moving into the area either to settle or to steal. One of the two. Now, sometimes, the settlers are the stealers because they come in and they just mooch off your land and they like the fertile ground and they just kind of have their own little business going on there. And then they get their 1 gold. You get your 1 gold out of them per year. Congrats. But yeah, Indigo Dragon says a Kingmaker AP is the best AP Paizo ever did. I agree with that.
Yes.
But I would say that you don't want to let the players get grass under their feet. So you always are moving them place to place, or you're having them go explore this area over here. What do we have in this area? And you let them discover why it's so cool to be an adventurer. Because one day they might discover like an owlbear lair. And then like the next day they might see one of the owlbears that is from that lair, and they get a good vantage point and they take it down and they take the pelt. Then they go in the lair and they find that there's like 7 owlbear pups, which let them grow up to adolescence and then kill them. That way you get all the XP out of them. I said that.
We didn't do that.
We didn't do that.
Yeah, we didn't do that at all.
Kai's game. Use it for Kai's game because Kai loves Murder Hub more than I do. But whenever they aren't expecting it, or whenever they are, maybe you give them a merchant or a tradesman or a peasant, and you give them another person they bump into, and you're always giving them new ideas for side quests or things that they might want to be involved with. So you don't really let them get their feet planted, but you give them a chance to kind of dabble in everywhere that they can. And don't let Connell go into a mushroom cave when there's trolls around, because Connell will ignore the trolls and go after the mushrooms. True story.
It
So
happened.
you give the players a bunch of different incentives for them to do certain things, and then you just let them decide to steer their own ship. You don't even try to move their piece across the hexes. Let them move. Let them make their decisions. And if they decide to go with none of the NPCs because they see that there's flags on these NPCs. I am a big quest giver. I am a very important NPC. I am the brother-in-law to the big bad evil guy. That sort of thing. If they see that, that's fine. Don't be upset. Play your game no matter what. But always be throwing them new opportunities to go in a different direction than where they're at. And you'll notice after a while that you're destabilizing the players because they're now really not used to staying in one spot. And if you give them that opportunity where they could stay in one spot, make it the most boring opportunity they could take. And I know that sounds really cruel, but you're going to be there like the princess or whatever her name was off Game of Thrones, where while she listens to all the people of her community tell her all the bad things. Oh no, a dragon has eaten 3 of my sheep this week. Khaleesi, there we go. She was boring as hell, and don't lie, you only watch her for her boobs. So you have a moment to where when you have the players trying to do stuff for themselves, make it so boring and dull that they're like, I want to get back on the road. Because that's where you as DM get to have more opportunities to feed them directions and NPCs and little flags like, hey, you may want to save this character here. You might want to know about this guy. Or, hey, this farmer is, one of the more important farmers in Durbanford, and he's got a lot of money. His wife has got this beautiful pendant around her neck. And don't let Garrett and Bruce find it, because Bruce will break the pendant, and the key to the Underdark from that one door in that cavern will be broken forever. Oh, wait, did I say that, Garrett? Yeah, I did that. So that sort of thing, you want to make the players at least let them know that they're not going to be feeling like they're going to be in charge. You're going to be going from place to place to place to place to place, meeting a bunch of different people. And the way you play your cards is going to determine on how well things go for you. But you're never not going to be meeting new and different NPCs, new different guilds people, a couple tax collectors from the state. And it's up to you, the player, to figure out how to handle it. If you don't want to be involved with them because you know those people are going to give you quests and they're going to expect things from you, well, I don't know how else you're going to make money. Oh, well, we're just going to steal our way through the community. Okay, cool. So make a campaign and a half for them to where they can steal things and then get chased down by city guard and then be in stocks. Isn't being in prison fun? Wait, did I say that aloud? Okay. But let the players steer their own ship. Don't try to railroad them, but do try to kind of say that this would probably be a good NPC for you to talk to. This would probably be a good NPC for you to introduce your son to because his daughter's kind of hot. Well, I want to hit it on it. No, don't hit on it because she's 12 and that's sick. Your son is 10. He's 2 years younger than her. Be a good idea. And if you make decent relations with him, I won't even ask for a charisma check, but we have to have a good conversation. And rely on that more than the die rolls. Rely more on the face-to-face interactions between players and NPCs. Don't let them say, well, I make a diplomacy check. No, I need you to use your diplomacy now. I need you to actually try to fucking role play. And if they don't, give them a minimal reward for minimal effort, because that's what they deserve. How else can I help you out with that answer there, Jade?
Sorry, my wife just called.
All right.
Let's take it over to Kai. What How do you keep political intrigue interesting?
Once again, mostly Bruce's playbook. Again, hey, look, we think alike. Is that a bad thing?
No, it's not. It just shows me that you and I read a lot of Dragon magazine when we were growing up.
Yeah.
In our 20s and 30s.
Yes, this is a horrible, horrible thing. How dare you both be good DMs? You shall rule the day.
God damn it, right? I know.
Don't blow their heads up.
Yeah, don't. I don't deserve an ego. But oh shit. I mean, let's see here. What have I got that I wrote down during all that conversation? The only things that I would do a little differently is always the whole, hey, if you're still playing that, you're continuing on to another campaign, you should ask, are any of the old characters still around? Are any of them still alive? And because you may be going with your youngins going, I have ambitions, and your old character might go, yeah, I don't agree with your ambition, motherfucker. But and especially if you're not playing a direct descendant, so you're just like, I'm some young buck, and then suddenly that old wily character goes, yeah, no, I don't like you. I don't like your goals. But wait, you were a revolutionary once. Yeah, but now I have a comfortable house and land and followers and troops and resources, and I'm comfortable with my family. And who are you again? A young upstart who wants to change the world. I'm going to kill you. Why? Because I've been you. I know better. I can't let you live. And suddenly, you don't make it that obvious that quick because players tend to skirt around it, but especially if they don't realize that they're about to go walk into a former player's backyard. And it's even more fun when it's like, it's just interesting that way. Also, another thing you should never do is, I know a lot of us like to do this to our players, of giving that subtle hint of, hey, you're about to do something wrong, right? Yeah, maybe you shouldn't do something wrong because you might derail my game. The first thing you should learn and beat this out of yourself is to take that little nagging thought of tell your players to not do something stupid and just strangle it, kill it, and let them walk straight into it. And you let them ruin themselves. It may work now. It may, like in that first campaign, that short-term compromise, or that murder hobo moment of someone going, "Fuck it, kill him." And well, there's no immediate problem. You're right, but we're gonna move 30 years into the future. There's problems. What do you mean? Well, your short-term solution of offering up the neighboring kingdom as a wedding gift was not a smart idea. But we won, right? Yeah, but did you kill everybody? Well, no. Well, then you failed you failed part of the evil overlord list. Oh, now you got problems. Namely the name of the word PC attached to it. Or even if you're not, or that NPC you forgot, they're now coming after you. So, but the thing is, if you keep wrapping your players in bubble wrap and going, no, don't make bad choices. You're all heroes and good guys. Good guys don't do bad things. They don't think you're all heroes because D&D is about being heroic. Fuck you.
So you mean if you wouldn't allow me to take common sense merit?
I
Just
would.
kidding.
No, you take the common sense merit. First off, you're just telling me that you're a new player and you need someone to tell you that's a bad
fair.
thing.
Yeah,
But
that's fair.
if any of us were at the table and goes, I take common sense, I go, no, you know better. Spend your points better on other things. Or feel free to have the once in a while, hey GM, is this a good idea? I don't know. Is it? oh, but the thing is, but if you strangle that instinct of going, are you sure? And stop telling your players that when they're doing RP stuff. Combat, sure. Tell them, are you sure you want to do that? But no, like when they're setting up their problems, that's going to come back and lay the seeds for what's going to end up being death, destruction, and horrible consequences later down the road. Because if you have a player who decides to emblazon in stone and wrought iron in a motto over the front gate to the Capitol, it says welcome and welcome, don't fuck up, and that's your country's motto. And he goes, well, yeah, because I don't want anyone to screw up. Everyone should do it right. Well, I'm like, yeah, but you're putting in a very horrifying authoritarian government that watches over everyone and punishes everyone with either Roman-style slave labor or execution. Those are your only two punishments that you have in your entire kingdom. Yeah, because it encourages everyone to not fuck up. Well, now he's made himself out to be. How many player characters would want to play in that country? Not many. Most player PCs would look at that country and go, "Oh fuck no! I don't want to do anything with them." And now your player has given you a foil, an enemy, an evil empire that they want to defeat. Why? Because they have a brutal police system that crushes anybody who has free will and thought. Okay, cool. But it's all about not telling your players that's a bad idea, or hey, if you do that, that'll cause a -2 to your regional stability and invite gang members into your area. No, if they want to go walk into the restaurant and then just blast the crime lord in the back of the restaurant, let them do it. They don't need to think about ramifications, or unless they have, but that's on to them. If they want to sit there in the third-story window of a marketplace and shoot the Duke in the middle of a parade, go ahead. Let them do it. Don't tell them no. And because you know what? But they're heroes. They should be. Fuck it. Fuck it. No. But their alignment says no. Fuck it. Let them go. Let them murder themselves. And it's beautiful. And when the players do fail or succeed, or even worse, think they succeed, and then watch that their eternal 1,000-year legacy turns out to only last 25 years, and it ends with their dreams dying, from poisoning. Yeah, you did a pretty good job there. And at which point you pat them on the head and go, "That was a character building experience. Now make a new character. Congratulations. Have some fun."
And then you can actually tell the story about, the PC's previous characters who failed at building an empire and picking up the pieces in the next game.
Yeah, and that's the fun part. And especially if the new players who overthrew the previous player decides to end up being worse monsters than the guy they overthrew. Because, well, obviously these people weren't good enough to be able to run them, weren't noble and powerful to run themselves, so we can't trust them to run themselves. So we're going to put a puppet government in and make it a brutal colony. Are you going to do anything to rebuild their infrastructure, or restore their local governments? No, we're going to extract maximum taxes and fuck them because we won the last war. Fuck it. I go, that didn't work for anybody in history ever. You know that, right? And they're like, history? Fuck that. I didn't read that. And I'm like, you are about to get your ass kicked. And then you just time jump again and then go, all right, so Mr. President, yes. The entire colony I declared open rebellion. Well, I go in and crush it. There's like 5 rebellion groups who are all against you. Oh, shit. How long does it take to get to the colony? About 5 weeks. By boat? By boat. Shit. 5 weeks. Which means the war started 10 weeks ago, didn't it? Yep. Shit. And then watch them freak out. And it's such a beautiful moment when they watch a player who's thought that he was the greatest king ever, the greatest president ever, turn out to be the worst as everybody declares war on him. and it's beautiful. Why? Because I didn't tell him no, and it was beautiful.
So these are all really, really great points about keeping things interesting. What is important to running a political game. Now let's get nitty gritty with it. What do you do to set up for a political game? Like from session 0 to end of game, how do you announce to the players, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is what, I'm thinking in the direction I want to go. Let me know your thoughts. Or, are the players the ones go, hey, we want to go political. We want to get into the geopolitical science of the world. How do we set up for a game like this? I know I'm going to be known as the notes GM at this point, but I'm going to say it. A GM who wants to run political science theater, you have to take notes. You have to be the guy who goes, what did they do? Why did they do it? What was the outcome? And how does it butterfly affect the rest of the world or the local area? These are things that I have to note as a GM of, my players went and destabilized this local area. Why? Because they were bored as fuck and didn't know what else to do. Well, what kind of ramifications does it have on them? Does it increase their metal costs so they can't buy new equipment? Does it increase their food costs so they starve to death or the people starve to death? These are all things that as a GM you have to take notes of, and you have to basically make the consequences feel real to make the campaign or the game world feel like a living world, so that the players, will continue to think about their actions before they do them. And that's how you kind of prevent murder hobos, or you teach murder hobos that there is more to the game than just murdering everything that moves. So, how do you guys do it? How do you prep for a political game? I'm going to start with the Cigar GM.
This is all theory because, as I said earlier, I only read the one. But if I'm running
Okay. Well, how do you prep for it as a player? If you know you're getting into a political game, how would you prep for it as a player? Like, what kind of concepts would you work with? What kind of character would you build if you know you're getting into a political game?
If it's a political game, not a political religious game, just a straight political game.
Any type of politics. You could say politics, religion. You could say majocracy, theocracy. There's different forms of government. We can probably touch on that. We've got about an hour left, so we can definitely touch on the different forms of government and or guilds. But how do you prep as a player to play in a game of politics?
I think, me personally, if I sit down hypothetically at Kai's table, or once you get yours up and going again, your table, and say, by the way, day 1, session 0, this is going to be a politically driven somewhat game. Please keep that in mind when you make your characters and forth and move on. I'd probably make a baseline character, just something I know I can run easy and it can go with either direction. Then wait for, that's the peas. Now I'm waiting for the mashed potatoes. How's it getting, which way is the campaign going? Are we going to be the heroes to some people and the villains to others? Or how's this going to work? What is my character's, not alignment, but where is my character's moral code going to stand? Because depends on your alignment. If any game that's run purely on alignment, it's going to fail, in my opinion. It doesn't work out well because you as a player can't be that alignment all the time. But you're trying to play this character. It just doesn't work. Decisions will be made that will go against your alignment, but you're still okay with. So with that all in mind, here comes the stake. What I'm meaning, Kai, is if the party wants to march down into hell to save Princess Mushroom because Bowser took her down there, and it's the only way to stabilize the kingdom, yeah, I'll go down to hell, but for what cost?
9 lives.
Hey, can I?
So I have to wait until not the final cards play, but as a player, I always try to make room, maneuvering moves, where whatever word that you want to use there. So my character is not completely taken unaware.
Okay. Okay, I can respect that. Kai, did you have something to add?
Not to add, but can I go next, please?
Yeah, sure.
No, he's going to blow me up. Here it comes. Here comes the grenade.
No. See, here's the one thing that I'm running into is the idea that I do not really know of a group of players that would, if I went to almost any table I've ever been sat at and gone, this is going to, and I heard the words, this is going to be a political campaign, I would look at most of my players that I've ever sat with and go, no. Okay, you might be able to handle it. No. I'd be literally looking at an entire group of players that the GM goes, we're going to play a political campaign. And I'd be like, this campaign's going to suck because we got cell phone guy, we got guy who's not paying attention, we got guy who can't think more than 4 minutes in advance. We got one guy who can't remember last week, even when he takes notes. And we got the political theory guy, and we got the one guy who actually knows what he's doing. And so therefore your table of 8 players turns out to be a complete and total nothing burger going into it. So therefore the idea that you go out you come to the table and go, we are playing a political game. Fuck that shit. Unless it's a bunch of expert players who have been like we are ready to play Mage the Ascension, or we're going to play some Elysium level gameplay where we're playing Elders. I'm going to look at most players who go, we're going to play a hardcore politics game and go, no. Politics should be that thing you add to the game to make it interesting. And I know that Indigo Dragon has said you don't play D&D. The thing is that honestly, all of this shit is mechanically and setting almost agnostic. You can run this yes, L5R comes with this pre-generated welcome to feudal Japano-China Korea. And Seven Seas is not Europe. And Pendragon is, it's welcome to, it's kind of Middle Ages. You're in all of these games that are really cool, but the idea and the concepts are universal. If you play a politics game, in Age of Steam, great powers. Are you going for modern day corporations or political parties? These ideas are universal. That they are not just setting focused. So it's one of those things where I hate to almost say it, a good political game is almost an emergent event. You don't plan on it happening. They happen. You can nudge it. You can try to nurture it. And as a player, you can try to hope to get other people to come join your idea. So it's almost I can lay out all the breadcrumbs in the world and say, I want to run the most intricate Game of Thrones, Legend of the Five Rings political campaign ever, and have my players almost immediately go, yeah, we have no interest in that. And my work goes out. I can keep on throwing bait and keep throwing bait and having players use I think this is bait meme on me endlessly. Or as a GM or as a player, I could be the one who comes out and goes, I want to do this kind of intrigue. And if the GM goes, I would love that. But the other 5 people at your table go, no, we don't want any of that shit. Well, guess what? You either give up on the idea or you take it into an almost secondary side, back channel it. You're still doing you're going on all the adventures. You're going to have all the fun. You might have some local, interactions and role playing, but you're still getting this. You have to make it a fun game. You gotta figure out a way to make it interesting. But I guarantee you, as much as I would love to sit down, session 0, and go, this is going to be politics. And I will watch people go glassy-eyed and go, I don't want that. Well, what do you want? I want to stab bitches. That's what I want to do. I want to drive a giant robot and shoot people for money. You know, there's policy behind that. I don't care. Shoot people. And you can also rewind that to, I want to stab people with sharp objects. Or I want to blast them with spells. That's you need, I don't want to say you have to ambush players with it, but you gotta. But a lot of players that they know they're walking into it are going to say, no, I don't want this. Why would I want this? But if you work them into it and you kind of trick them into it, it's kind of like look, you got to treat every player from age 14 to 99 and treat them like you're trying to treat a 5-year-old who's having a bad temper tantrum and go, you know you like this. I don't like this. That's terrible. Try it. And then you wrap the fun up in like candy, and then you feed it to them, and then and you slowly inch them into it, and then eventually they go, I love this. This is all I want to do now. And you're like, yeah. It took 12 sessions for it to kick in, but now it's firing. Now you're firing on all cylinders. Come on, let's do. And now they're engaged. But if you walked into it day one and said, courtly politics, and all but me would be like, we're out. And that's about what it comes down to.
I mean, yeah, that's a really great point. Yeah, when I think politic games, I take it slow. I don't just jump directly into the game of politics with players. I do, announce at the very beginning, it's like, hey, there is going to be political science into this game, and I'm going to be adding political themed elements for you to go do or to explore. But it's not where I start. I start with small scale. I start on the macro level, saying, okay, here's your your little area. Go explore, and as you explore, you'll meet people and things along the way that will have impacts later on in the game. And some of those might be political. Some of those might be thematic impacts. Some of them might be huge quests that take your character from level 0 to level 80. Who knows? So let's go to Bruce. How do you prepare for political science games?
Usually I'm going to have a name generator off to the side, and I'm going to probably read David Icke's book, the first one he did, where he talks about the families of the earth, how they're all related, and I get myself in that mindset. To where I talk about that, and then I might watch like maybe an hour of McNeil Lehrer Hour or NPR, something I can find on YouTube that's easily digestible, or not easily digestible, but you have people that are really ugly and they're trying to talk about $1 million topics. And you can see why politics is such a horrible sell in the United States of America, because you have the socially retarded talking about it on CNN, punctuated by really cool commercials that Pfizer paid for. And then I'll just make some notes for about a half sheet of paper or maybe an index card. And I'll get guild names, noble names. And sometimes if I'm feeling really froggy, I'll pull out the Grand Duchy to Karmikios, which was the magic user ran portion of Mystara, because that was pretty cool, and it kind of talked about a setting where instead of a typical feudal society, the wizards rule. Maybe you read some Terry Goodkind leading up to it. Wizard's First Rule was the name of the book. And it was a pretty good book for that. And then the last thing I'll do is I'll pick up the Night Angel trilogy and read that by Brandon Weeks. because that book is about an assassin in a big ass city. And eventually, at some point, it might turn into that. It just might turn into that. And that poor guy deals with all sorts of politics, all sorts of trials and tribulations. And I'll just try to be in an open mindset to where I'm absorbing, I'm listening in on things. Maybe I'll go back to the stream where me and Kai talked about social combat and Pathfinder system, and he really was just like having a ball talking about it and discussing how he maneuvers players with that system. So he does that, and I listen to these sort of things. I'm a very dull, boring person, but when I'm setting up for a game, I try to stack the deck so much in my players' favor that they have fun. I want to give them a bunch of NPCs to deal with one at a time. I want to give them some exciting places to visit. I want to give them goals. Another book I picked up recently is called Salt in Wounds, which is a setting neutral book, but it's set in a city ran by evil wizards, and they've got 13 javelins pinning a Tarrasque to a mountain, and they're leeching the fluids off the Tarrasque and sucking the reagents and the alchemical stuff to sell. And some of the people of the town, there's like a new slums right underneath where the dribble falls, because some of the people live right there and they're not turning out right. They're not being too good, and they're looking more and more like Jerry's kids. Like 78, 79. Jerry's kids telephone.
Wow.
And I mean they're looking all sorts of funky. And then you have the nobles of the town, which are just evil sons of bitches. Like they would fit perfectly in your guys talking about Vampire the Masquerade bullshit. They'd fit perfectly in that setting, but they're evil bastards that are trading magic potions between each other. And some guys are like, "Hey, I have something for your potency problem. I know you only have girls. We could give you this essence of blue dust from the Tarrasque, and we have engineered it. The gnomes have got it perfect." And the guy takes it, and then like he turns into an Oitug or something. Aha, I got him. And they do shit like that to each other. It is a evil fucking setting. And if you want to know the setting name, that is called Salt in Wounds. And it's a good thing to read, because it is a book where you have a playground where evil reigns. And if you want to see politics gone to the nth degree, give people all the power and just see what the hell they do with it. So you let them have that, and they have all these levers they can pull and they can tug, and they're just trying to make their personal wealth wagons that much bigger. So I think about things like this before I sit down for session 0. What else do you want to know, Jade?
We haven't heard from the Baron in a little bit. Baron, how do you set up for political games, either as a player or as a game master?
Well, as a game master, I've done very, very little of it. Usually, what I'll do is just sit down and figure out who, what, where, when, and why.
Okay, good
And
questions to ask.
That's the basics that I usually do is who are um, the different factions, what is their goal, why is that their goal, where do they operate, and basically the why do they do what they do, essentially. So it's kind of like one of those, once you figure out the motivations, you can it's kind of like a chessboard. You can set the chessboard and ready to do with it. As a player, it's just basically making sure that you understand who who the players are, and what it's kind of the same thing, except you don't know who all the players are, and you just kind of have to learn who the players are as you go, and then try to adjust on the fly as a player.
Okay.
I want to add one really quick thing. I didn't think about it, and I already said the name of the author I like to read. But if I'm making a character, I will probably spend a lot of time reading The Prince by Machiavelli, reading anything about was it King Richard. He was the guy before Henry VII. My bad. And there's a few other people throughout history that are worth reading that I find work very well in a political campaign that keeps your mind still in the medieval train of thought. Because anything like Roosevelt or Winston Churchill is too modern. The way of thought is still political in sense, but it's different. It's
I have a suggestion there then.
what
There's a wonderful podcast out there called Revolutions, and give it a listen to. It's insanely long in duration, but he goes into exceeding detail into everything from the start of the English Revolution and carries out all the way through the Russian Revolution.
oh,
And you get to spend about almost 100 and some episodes on the French Revolution. So think of about 120 episodes, each about 30 minutes long. Listen to it and then enjoy the idea on how small events all interconnect in an interesting manner. And yeah, just give it a listen to. I cannot suggest it enough. Like, if you want to just have an idea on how to make your games feel more organic, more like why people are doing things can be why they've happened in the past. Like, and they go from you get to see Haiti, Russia, Germany, France #2, America #2, and England. You get to have all of these wonderful things that you can look at. And then once you get the foundations, it's like art. Once you learn the basics and once you learn the rules, you can break the rules. So it's great to read the great works of the past. So that way, you know, when you throw a wizard into it, you know that, well, you know how this is how and this is how. But if there's suddenly now a sorcerer who's in the background mind controlling somebody, you can also now figure out how that can ripple out from an interesting thing. So again, Mike Duncan's Revolutions, an amazing podcast. Just start it and know that you're about to sit through several college lecture length long courses on Revolution, and it's an amazing just time killer. You get to throw away the next 3 months of your life, and it's great.
So, having actually run more modern politic games through mostly Iron Kingdoms kind of
Yay.
setting, I've run the political gambit of nations. Where the players are acting upon the agency of the nations they represent, or they're acting at the behest of a nation that they may not actually be a part of, because they were the chosen representatives. And the players have had to circumnavigate a lot of really treacherous waters, because in the more modern era, it's not really that different than the medieval era. The goals are almost the same. They just might have bigger consequences or faster consequences than they did in medieval times. Like, information might travel faster, and the recourse of it might happen sooner. So now, instead of the players going, oh yeah, we're going to go take care of this barony problem, and get the baron back on board with the king. In the medieval era, that might take a month or two. That might take several in-game sessions. But now, let's fast forward to, say, the Industrial Revolution, where we have the telegram, we have instant communication. I mean, I'm not even looking at the magic aspect of it. I'm just looking at advances of technology and advances of ages. We get into the Industrial Revolution, and let's say the local government goes, hey, this guy's not paid his taxes. We need him to be on board with this now, and we're going to send you to go get those taxes. Well, now the PCs will get there in days because, well, hey, the train might go there. Or, the person knows in advance that the players are arriving because, well, he's got spies out there in the world. So the repercussions happen faster, but it's the same goals. It's the same, basic human goals, or in some cases, whatever race goals. The dwarves are, typically foraging or mining, as the stereotype goes, and the elves are too busy being, looking at the long view of things to really notice humans trespassing, or when they do, it becomes very, very violent at times. But, just because you're playing in a more advanced age doesn't mean the political side of it changes. It's just the repercussions change in, size and speed. And that actually brings me to political crises. If your players are, these raffle stomping McMurder hobos, what kind of crises should you introduce into, as far as political goes, into the world to get them to realize, hey, raffle stomping McMurder hoboing might be a short-lived job because you might run into, empire problems. I'm going to start with Baron on this one.
As soon as you realize
Nope.
he's on mute.
Yep, you're on mute, by the way.
Shut up. You say it right. Okay.
I didn't catch that, sorry.
That's okay. Your hair looks nice.
Uh-huh.
No, when you have the murder hobos go through, it kind of rolls back to what Bruce was saying earlier. They're going to have issues where they're going to miss opportunity, and they're not going to realize what opportunities are going to miss. And then the big thing is DM is having that roll full circle to bite them in the ass. Being that they decided,
And there goes your internet again. Give it a moment, it might come back. Man, that's that 9 MBS up down speed.
Yeah, sucks.
And you're back.
Okay, so we got Murder Savvy, is not joining the guild, and the guild may come back after a time and decide to stab him. There are repercussions, if they don't do things. Maybe the guild doesn't like freelancers. And this is something that he chose to either ignore or not find out. So I mean, there are the big thing is that there are consequences to the choices that are made.
I'm going to address Angelus Draven there. Mr. Baron here is still training for his new office position out of town, and unfortunately the place he's staying at has not so great internet. It's only got like either 9 up or down speed. It's not the greatest. Let's move on to quick McFast run. What crises or problems do you throw into raffle stomping McMurder hobos ways if you're trying to run a more political themed game?
I would go with we could do this really quick and start with a shortage of food, a famine, out of season, like right before winter, and the players, you're so good at killing off these little bands of hobgoblins or whatever. they've moved on and they've started sacking the merchants. And before the
Ooh, that's a
winter
good one.
solstice before the winter solstice time comes around, they're trying to ship all the grain they can to the north, to these areas that are kind of remote and such. And the players better figure out how they can ruffle something better in environments that they're not used to, like mountain passes, which are rife with ambush and death and falling. You could also have a famine hit the area, and nobody would be able to understand as to why there's a famine going on. And unless they were able to actually do some commune with God, like 6th level divine spells, they're not going to know. So they've got real issues where they actually have to figure out how are they going to orchestrate wagon trains of food being given halfway across the continent. How are they going to do that? And so you could make it to where it's a logistical nightmare. And I mean, a guy like myself or Blaine would look at that going, oh boy, I could definitely run a shipping company. Let me go with that. And we would turn into, like, Oregon Trail meets Euro Truck Simulator. And you could just have way too much fun with this. I'm sorry, I watched a lot of Leisure Suit Larry playthroughs through the week. So anyway, we're doing this Euro Truck Simulator in Oregon Trail, and let the players try to lead a caravan of like 40 truckers that just got done protesting downtown at the Capitol, and have them go to a horrible like ice road or something as penance for their activities. And you could have them do that. You could literally just have them, kind of on the exile side, and the players realize, like, about 1/3 of the way through, we're getting fucked, aren't we? We're going up to the North Pole to see Santa with these 40 covered wagons with grain, hoping we can save this town that has no business being this far north. This is the French bulldog of population centers. There's no reason why it should be alive except for fucking capitalism. None.
I'm gonna have to mute.
So you have the players where you could, like, maybe they've done some really cool things, and maybe they've leveled up to 4th or 5th level, and maybe this is their way of the town brimming them off. Hey, take these crappy logistical people that just protested in downtown for a while, and why don't you take this, miracle convoy and go on Ice Road, to save this community before the winter solstice kicks off, because if not, they're going to be dead by spring. And thus that gets rid of the player characters, but they're now tasked by their local duke or duchy to go up there and take care of this. And you could have just natural disasters, crank them up to 12. They're not solved by magic. They're not solved by something. I rolled a 13 on my intelligence check. I know what to do. And this ends our adventure here. Give me the wand of fireballs like the Monty Hall magician sold me. Do that. Make it to where the players have to work for it, and they actually have 10 or 12 adventure sessions going across Ice Road and up in that miserable mountain pass where Boromir used his shield to bulldoze a path for the hobbits to follow behind. You could do that, and you should do that. And as a DM, you should make your players feel like they're pretty cool until they realize they've been had and they've been shoved somewhere out of pocket. So when the players get back next summer, because they still haven't got teleport yet, and there's not going to be a teleport back to town, there will be a long hike back to town when the snow melts. They can see that the town's political identity has changed, not for the better. That family that has the 2 asshole kids that always picked on you in school because their dad was a baron, well, they're now in charge. And all the cool people that you liked in town, they look like they're stepping right out of Monty Python and the quest for the Holy Grail. They're the dirt farmers. Everybody while you were gone, saving this community far up north and earning their respect and admiration. And while you leveled up to level 5, congratulations, no fireball yet, wizard. Yeah, I know, right, Blaine? you you get stuck, and when you come back to town where you grew up at, things have taken a turn for the worse because now there's new duties and tariffs. The Trade Coasters Guild is trying to find any swinging dick with a sword arm, and when you make it back to town, I'm like, oh my god, thank God you're back. We have a reason to have you back, and we're really happy to see you. And maybe for the next 2 adventure sessions, the players are getting caught up on all the bad things that have happened, but they're not going to be able to solve anything just yet. That in itself is another 7 to 10 session adventure for them to try to figure out how to make the town politics get along with itself to where the players are not public enemy number 1. And you should have the opportunity for the players to turn into public enemy number 1 quite a few times because they are heroes after all. And there would be no better reason for them to possibly get sent to the stocks, or worse yet, to like what I use in my campaign, Granite Mountain Prison, the prison that has 365 little cells, and every day everybody pushes on the wall to their left, and they move the cells by 1 notch each day. It's a great setup for a prison. But you make it to where the players have to work for their victories. And when you're dealing with politics, when you're dealing with things that are going to throw a monkey wrench in their plans, as a DM, don't go light on them. Don't make it to where they can just hand wave this. This is going to require them to expend their resources. They have to actually role play. No automatic diplomacy checks available. And they're going to have to actually use their brains. If they're able to outsmart you as a DM, you need to read more. You need to level up more. You obviously have the right ideas, but you don't put them in play at the right times. Read more. Continuously read. Continuously level yourself up and get better behind the screen. And don't be afraid to join up with other DMs and talk with them as to how they get over certain things. Take good, copious notes.
Work smarter, not harder.
Exactly. The charts in the DMG, there's encounter charts in the back of the Dungeon Master's Guide. First edition even has it. Make those charts work for you, because sometimes those charts are going to give quest givers, sometimes they're going to give you an ability to help your players along by putting them in the right direction because they're hitting their head up against the mountain wall so often. And maybe you just need to do that. But if you're going to really just have things going on, you've got a fully fledged political machine in your town, be it the guilds or nobility, whoever thinks they're in charge, and then you have who's really in charge. And you want to have like a 2-tiered system where when you get into town, there's a prince or there's a duke or there's a baron or maybe there's a magister. But then you find out the people really in charge or person really in charge is somebody who much rather wants to be Grima Wormtongue than anything else. They love to just throw ideas out there and watch their ideas get used. And you want to find these things out if you're a player. You want to make these people not hard to find as a DM. You want to make their actions known, sometimes not right away. I like doing things that do reflect on our current society, and so the Ice Road Trucker bit that I have there, I do plan on throwing that at my players in this current campaign. Sorry, Connell. I know you don't like so much. So, what else do you want to know, Jade?
I mean that's a really good
it's a long and drawn out explanation. I've bunny hopped to a few other topics too, but I apologize.
Oh no, you're fine. Actually, that's a really great roadblock to throw at murder hobos. Throw them. Hey, this town's gonna starve, and then allude to their actions being the reason for it. You know, they're pushing the goblins out of, you know, the local region and pushing them to this other town. That's actually a really great use for that. Kai, do you have anything to add on this?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh boy, here we go.
Sit back and buckle up, boys, because here it comes.
Get your popcorn ready, kids.
The thing here is that say you come into the idea of your sorry, we're running out of time, so I can't sit here and talk for too long. So honestly, when your murder hobos are out there, you know, doing the murder hobo thing of like, well, we got our job, we went out there and we cleared out a temple full of evil cultists, and then you get back to town, and during the whole bit, the one of the evil cultist leaders manages to escape through, you know, trickery, dimension door, whatever, you know.
Not this time, man.
See you next time. And you know they escape through. You spend villain hero point and they escape. You know, because that's what villains do. Because they're cool. 7C's rules here to play. Drama dice getting played, and suddenly the party goes to town and we're like, yeah, and they're now heroes. You get to give them a little bit of a. You clear out the cultists. Yeah, everyone gets you free drinks. And then you go find the town meeting. You'll meet the new mayor of town and who's the person between you and the higher up the nobility chain, and they're like, hey, and suddenly you get to find out that the head of the evil cultist is actually on the city council, and you're like, wait a second, so you can't just go and stab the hell out of them, because if you do, well, you just killed the respected town leader, town council leader. How could you do that? So now the party has to go, well, how do we uncover the fact that so-and-so is actually part of an evil cult? And then as they try to dodge around it, because now the town council can't go out there and stab you because they're going to play their hand about being evil. So it's comes this little diabolical game that you can teach your hobos on how to be not so hobo-ish. And then suddenly, they manage to either win over, defeat, drive out the cult, and then find out that there's actually an even bigger cult in the distance. And somewhere there's a scary German guy with way too much money who's sitting here laughing at you because he's controlling everything and you can't do shit. You're powerless to stop it unless you can get your act together. And suddenly your people go, but how do we stop an ultimate evil? I don't know. How do you start figuring it out? But it feels hopeless because it is, or is it? But that's all about but it's all about making sure that your players see what they can't kill, because if they do, they're going to ruin everything. Which, you know what, there's going to be, if you have rational players, God help us all, they'll go, no, we'll lose too much by defeating evil. We'll make a compromise. Wrong. But until that irrational player goes, I don't care about consequences. And then they go blow it up. And then you get to go, guess what? Consequences. Oh. And then you get to go use up the punching bag for a half hour. You tie them to a tree, you beat the crud out of them for a while. And then the party goes, why did you do that? I was killing evil. I'm a paladin. I'm supposed to kill evil. And now we're hated for it. And now they learn sometimes you need to take a wiffle bat and beat your paladin into the ground so that way he stops being a paladin for a little bit. Or he's unconscious so he can't stop you. And that's what it comes down to in the end, is make sure that your hobos get to actually not just go through their day. And that if they do live up to the actual murder hobo mentality of, I'm just going to leave town and go on to my next quest. Well, congratulations. You do realize that you really haven't finished the quest, have you? Well, we got our paycheck, so fuck it. We're moving on. That town is going to linger in the background. And eventually, somebody's going to go, maybe we shouldn't have left the cult behind. Nah, nothing bad will ever happen. Pay no attention to the vast library of H.P. Lovecraft novels in the background. I may or may not have read in the past. So you have your cult, like I said, and it could just simply be somewhere like a James Bond evil villain. There's the actual real head of the evil thing in the background, and the party just blunders their way in true James Bond fashion into stopping the ultimate evil plot because, James Bond's actually kind of an idiot and walks his way into everything. Oh, I need you to investigate this carjacking. Okay, and find out that that's actually a plan that will involve blowing up the moon. Okay, and I will stop that. Cool. And just have some fun with it. It doesn't have to be all serious. It doesn't have to be the halls of the great castles and all this. Sometimes you could just be a political intrigue campaign that just involves you being a womanizing, alcohol drinking, cigarette smoking, gambling, gadget using asshole. You can just have fun with that, and that's still a good political game.
Sounds like that's Cigar GM's kind of game. Yeah. I think
You've been reading my diary again.
No, but I obviously think we're on the same page, or I have a copy of the similar.
All jokes aside, a few more jokes in it. It's not hobos, it's vagrants. But that's besides the point.
Tomato.
How do I deal with the party that's gone hobo mad? Easy. I understand wanting to stab the council member because you really know he's an evil cult leader that's praying to the spaghetti monster in the sky. I get that. In some scenarios, that might be the right move, but there's consequences. Just because it's the right thing to do doesn't mean it's the best thing to do right now. Stab him when he goes home. That's the right thing to do.
Evil villain.
Right. But no, when I have a party that is kind of running off the tracks, that guy that you guys were able to take down, the evil such and such? Yeah, well, his family got hold of the local lord and the magistrate, and who's now sending police officers or city or township or whatever peacekeepers now after you. What do you mean? We're the good guys. Does anybody know why you went into that town and put the beat down on said person? No, but we were told to do this because it was, because blankety blank blank. Well, here's the rub. You broke the law. You killed one too many people without there being a piece of paper by the next town's sheriff, a warrant, one of those dead or alive warrants they used to do in westerns, or some kind of some kind of acceptable reason that's being backed, instead of just saying that guy is bad, we need to put him down now in front of his daughter and his son Timmy, who is lame, who will never forgive you. He'll have horrible Christmases now. And so there's got to be some kind of consequences. So if which is weird for me to say, but anybody who's ever gamed with me,
Are you a murder hobo?
I'm not a murdering hobo. I'm a murdering.
Okay, you murder vagrant.
But sometimes using the city, using the plot, using the city as a plot against the party can cool the heels of your murdering hobo party.
Yeah, I think that's some really good points. Player action should not be without consequence and or reward. If they topple the local government, there should be kind of a consequence there, unless that local government was, a tyrannical regime. But there still should be a consequence to that, as well as a reward. The people might celebrate them as heroes, but the consequences are now they've got to pick up the pieces and figure out how to run a city suddenly. Oh my God, Kingmaker 2.0.
Anno.
But, Go ahead.
Anno. Kingmaker's good. Anno is Anno. Learn to do it better.
Yeah. So player actions should always have a. I'm gonna quote the laws of motion here. a player action should have an equal and opposite reaction, and you know, and that's how you keep the game going. That's how you keep the players moving forward. Is every time they do something, you figure out what the consequences are and what the positives and negatives are, and you present them in an intriguing way into the next quest or next bit. And these are all things that you can do in the political side of things and the non-political side of things. Um, how do you guys feel about this topic?
I'm cool with the topic as legacy building. Um, I don't think we covered politics within the group itself.
Oh, okay.
How to handle that, because might have the paladin who has a particular god that likes to punish all thieves, and well, the guy next to him is a rogue who kind of, it means well, but he kind of has sticky fingers, and so forth and so on.
I don't think that really plays into legacy so much, but I do believe that could be another topic for another night: is group politics and group dynamics. But it's a good one. I'm writing it down.
As far as like tonight's topic was concerned, the only thing I didn't touch on, I wanted to touch on like what would happen if you ran a drink everybody a game where you had a theocracy that was running like what's in Ptolus.
Oh, okay.
And that was something that we can throw that on to another stream later. But I think that talking about like the feudalism and the guilds, because I think those two really sucked up a lot of the air, and that's fine because you can port those. You can port those into any other game really easily. Instead of a guild, it's this crime family, or instead of a crime family, it's this trade organization in your science fiction traveler game. Yeah. You can do things like that. But a theocratic game, a theocratic organization that runs your town or local laws, that right there kind of out of all the ways that you could really ruin politics for tabletop, you could mix religion and politics for your game, and you can completely either be the worst GM at doing this, or you can force people to actually reflect on it afterwards because you discuss how possibly a power structure could benefit society if it was just allowed to dictate the laws and dictums of this local community. And if they actually did have the people's best interests in mind, you could do that. You could, where you could have it, and you could absolutely reflect where if they're in a rural setting, like a town less than 200 people, where the church is really what's running the community. The people who really run the community are the ladies in the basement at the church with all these Minnesota style hot dishes. And they say, you betcha. And oh, that's interesting. Whenever you come into town and talk about all your latest killings that you do because you're a murder hobo, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. I bet you have a lot of interesting stories, don't you? Don't you? And they do things like that. But you could really, as a GM, you could give your players a loop, but you could also be really heavy-handed with it too, and that's a balancing act you will have to learn for your table, because you'll know if your game was successful if your players come back after that. That's going to be the hardest one. I recommend you probably, out of all the instances where politics is in the players' lives, you don't let that one be the one that's front and center. You let that one be, just you make mention of it. You make an off the color remark about it, or you have some of the people in town at the festival say, "Oh, but we have to give thanks to our god Shub Nagurith because it's that festival time, and we're doing the fertility the fertility of the plants, and we're going to make sure everything's good. And then you have like a mass kill off of like all the visitors in town as you realize they're an evil Call of Cthulhu style cult where they slit their throats of all the visitors, and then they just drag them through the fields and help irrigate and moisturize all of the soil, and the plants, and the roots are happy, and Shub-Niggurath, laughs. You could do that. It's a way for you to also, if you're having a game where you're losing your players, doing that completely brings your players back to the table. Yeah, the plot of Midsummer, absolutely, Jonalia. And you completely do that. I would rather you watch the Witch instead of Midsummer. Midsummer sucked, but the Witch was cool. But you completely give the players a reason to be quickly invested at the table because they dabbled with the local town politics and didn't realize it was ran by an evil fertility cult. And the way that they celebrate the planting of the wheat is by killing off all the new people. You could completely do this.
The Wicker
And this
Man.
is up to you. It's your discretion.
Wicker
But-
Man. I was like,
Yeah,
Go
the
ahead.
Wicker Man. The bees! The bees!
God.
you could completely go that route. And if you go the tollless route where you have Lothian running the entire city basically, and you have the church, we must protect the church, we must revere the church. Don't forget to have the negative aspects pop up when the town depopulates to half its size, because not everybody wants to be in the church basement making hot dishes. Not everybody wants to be involved with all 14 holy days of your damn celebrations. Holy shit, it sucks. Nobody wants to be involved with that. And you'll see that reflected in the guilds. You'll see that reflected in the trade options, in the things that you could buy in town. When these things start to wither up and disappear, it's just like you going to Walmart and being confronted with, I was going to buy some insert fruit here. I was thinking avocados, but fuck, the shelf is bare, and have that forced on the players. You could buy these lower quality swords that we do have these lower quality swords at the general store. They're from just the town right next door, who they don't have any dwarven smiths, but these swords are sharp, and the first time they roll a natural one, they break. Congratulations. You have these options, but make the players, like Shauner said earlier, have the players reflect their choices in the actions that happen to them later. Let them be the executioners. Let them be the ones tying the knot in the rope that they will hang from. You don't have to invent anything as a DM. You really don't. You can just use the tools that you are given by the players. And if they want to just be murder hobos, you can have them completely have that situation reflect where the evil humanoids will go elsewhere, where there's juicier targets. They will form bigger bands, and they will ransack royal caravans filled with wheat and rice and grains, and they will totally make it damn near impossible for your 7 towns to survive from Halloween up until Easter. Have fun. But I think, I don't know, I'm rambling now, but I do want you guys to have that. I want you to see what impact that could have at your table. Because if that impacts your table the way it's supposed to, what's going to happen is your players are going to keep coming back. Your players are going to keep coming back, and worse yet, you're going to be out with them buying stuff one day at a mall or at the store, and one of your players turns to you is like, man, I remember this one time you were at a game and you threw this at us. And all of a sudden now you and your buddy are in line getting ready to pay for some bananas and avocados because this store has them. And he's bringing you back to a situation that totally pissed him off 6 months ago. because of something you did as a DM. Hey, Biggest Geekus, how are you doing?
All right.
What else would you like to ask there, Jade?
Well, I know we're running close on time.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's
We'll
really
get
all the
it.
questions I came up with on the spot because I didn't realize I was going to be hosting. But
I
yeah,
actually,
This
I
is what
thought
happens when you do homework.
well, I was doing homework for what I was going to say, but not necessarily hosting. I wasn't expecting to host.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
It's fine.
Surprise!
I hope I did a fair job of hosting content and asking at least somewhat interesting questions.
the majority of our stream, we had 10 people, 8 solid people in the chat at one time for like 90 minutes to 100 minutes.
Nice,
You did pretty good.
fantastic.
And we still have a handful of people here. I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I think with the questions that you asked and with how you prepared it, because I want to know, like, how would you run a megocracy? How would you have that impact your players?
Mageocracy?
Magocracy.
Let's see. Mageocracy. Well, actually, I'm kind of getting ready for that. My Bronze Era game is going to be so high magic that every single person in the world has magic. And when I say magic, I don't mean they're like level 0 wizards or level 1 wizards or whatever. No. Everyone has access to magic based on the star pattern in the sky they were born under. And they have access to the word of magic, the creation word of magic. Meaning, if you're born under the right star pattern, you might have access to fire and destruction magic. What can you do with it? Who knows? It's whatever you want to imagine. But that will, in turn, create society that is very magic driven and very magic centric. So you're going to have, the emergence of the laws of magic. Thou shalt not use magic to kill. That thou shalt not invade the sanctity of one's mind. I'm pulling that from Dresden, obviously. But you're going to have these, rules of magic in play, like, kind of like the Ten Commandments, that, you don't do these things with magic. Why? Because it is not socially acceptable. But at the other hand, you're going to have people going, hey, here's what we have been doing with magic. Here's what we want to be doing with magic. How do we get here? And you'll have your, mageocracy very invested because, most times mages, and I'm speaking of like wizards, not so much sorcerers or warlocks, but definitely wizards are very intelligent people, very brainy people. So they're thinking up all the ways and paths of how magic can be used and the different methodologies to explore magic. So typically in a political sense, if you have a bunch of brainiacs running the show, they're looking at where they can take magic and how it can help their people in a lot of ways. But you also have the flip side of that. Sometimes you have the megalomaniac sorcerers who go, I want as much power as I can gather, and I don't care who I've got to sacrifice to get a hold of it. So you have both sides of the coin there, and it's going to be interesting because I am getting ready for this Bronze Era game, and that's something I'm looking at is in the political area, how do we explore magocracies? Because our world has never had magocracy because it's our world. It's we've had theocracies, we've had autocracies, we've had tyrannical governments, republics. We've had all these forms of government that we're familiar with. So how does a magocracy work? I think it's very, very brainy, very exploratory. I almost want to say Star Trek-ish, but instead of technology-based, go magic-based.
I was thinking about that as you said that, and I was wondering what it would be like to go to college where Joe Satriani and Eric Clapton were in the same room discussing things, and Eric Clapton was just kind of being a generalist and not getting too deep into weeds on it. whereas Joe Satriani's discussions are arpeggios and other flourishes he does with his variety of music, and Eric Clapton is just kind of dumbfounded, like he's listening to Prince play guitar. Like, that's cool. I've never thought of doing that before. And I've played this guitar for 60 years. And I could see exactly where that would come along for what you're doing. Because you've got, like, if you're going to run a Megocracy, the two books I recommend you read are the Grand Duchy of Karmikios and the Salt in Wounds book that I managed to pick that up. And that might totally ruin your game, by the way. But the Salt in Wounds gives you a great idea of what happens when a group of guilds gets this massive resource as a Tarrasque, and they've pinned it to the rock wall behind the city.
Well, I am running Bronze Era, so it's very much going to be the emergence of higher society. It won't start out that way. It'll definitely become an emergent thing. And I'm also running it not with a story arc or an actual plot. I've got plot elements that I'm throwing darts at a map, saying, okay, that's what that means. That's what that means. And if the players go explore these things, they can find the overarching idea or story or theme of the world, but they have to piece it together themselves. Okay. And then they have to want to get involved in the politics. So I am kind of still exploring that.
Yeah, there's another book called The Principalities of Galantry, and Biggest Geek says their known world is a Megocracy.
Okay, I will check that out.
It's something that you might want to look into. They did a lot of really good stuff with the known world. They explored a lot of different paths and how various lands would be ran. And those two, Karmikios and Galantry, were just really well written. There's a lot of adventure in those books. You'll be reading them, and you might as well just get another college rule notebook there. That way you can write your ideas down and go with that. Okay. Don't need all 40 pages.
I think Kai wants to chime in on here.
No, I'm good now.
Go ahead, Kai. Okay. What were you going to say, man?
Yeah.
If you don't mind taking a bit of an modern urban fantasy take on the idea of what a mage-dominated world would look like, in the modern day, I would almost suggest, mind you, get past the idea that you're going to be reading hate to say it, an urban fantasy romance novel, the Ilona Andrews Hidden Legacy series, 6 books currently in it, and you're dealing with a entire mage storyline, a world of modern mages having political houses where they have spent the last 150 years interbreeding themselves to create the most powerful wizards, and they have this wizard house, this school has their resources in this part of Houston, Texas. Yes, the entire book series is in Houston, Texas.
That explains inbreeding.
So
let's say that out loud.
So if you look at what's going on, just gotta remember, it's in Houston, and it's weird. But the best part of it is that you can see the how. So you have families that are powerful, that have sub-branch families, and they interbreed to create more powerful spellcasters. They gather they gather libraries. They all look at each other with the idea that power is something that you have to husband, guard. The idea that everyone can have magic, sure, but the houses are more powerful and can stomp on you. And so therefore, they don't want an upstart new group coming in here. So they have entire rules. So you have society, which is for the normals, for the mundanes, the poor people who can't cast magic, and they have laws and this need for police. Meanwhile, the mages are like, we can literally warp reality by snapping our fingers, and depending on what our specialization is, we could be literally cutting people's throats open with ice blades, or making people explode, because that's what we do. Or we're summoning demons from other dimensions, and you're sitting here going, how do people deal with this? And the police are going, as long as the mages don't decide to blow up City Hall, we are okay with it. And it's an interesting book series because it takes the idea that humans are literally living alongside these powerful mages that have a society, and it's actually functioning for the most part up until some ragtag sorcerer fire mage, some invoker shows up and goes, you know what, fuck the rules, fuck the law. If you can't defend it, you don't deserve it. And then goes out on a rampage, just blowing up everybody with his massive fire spells. And you're like, well, that sounds like what wizards do already in Dungeons and Dragons, but it's just an urban. Like I said, get around the idea that you're gonna be reading a romance novel, but it's an amazingly good deep dive into what a magical society in the modern day could look like. And it's not like one of those, oh, it's hidden in the shadows where you're not sure it's happening. This Harry Potter bullshit or this Dresden Files where everyone kind of doesn't realize it's there. No, like this is like literally out in the open. If two mage houses go to war, everybody like they fill out documents, hand it into city hall, and everybody else clears the fuck out of the way. As personal defense forces and I'd show up, and like private armies of minions show up, and suddenly you have giant monsters, demons, and fireballs and other things going off, and you're like, everyone else is going, that's a normal day for here. Okay, we live in this horrible dystopian world where wizards rule us all. Okay, that's cool, and that's how you could do a magical society.
Now, there's a book series that I've read, and it is the Pillars of Reality series by Jack Campbell. Basically, they're taken as kids, and mages are taught that reality doesn't exist, and that they can just take whatever is there and bend it. That's how magic works. They also have the Mechanics Guild, who controls all of your steam engines, anything that would be mechanical. It is a very, I would say, I would put it as a early 1900s with a few things from the 50s and 60s in it. And basically the big things are pretty much laid out, and the common people don't have things. Of course, the Mechanics Guild, they have guns, they have everything else. And where the mages come in, it's two different guilds basically that run the planet. So it's very interesting. There's a 6-part series, then there's a follow-on. I think it's another 3 or 4-part follow-on series to it. Then they actually have started releasing some prequels to it also. That they kind of touch on, which is very. I really enjoyed the series, but if you're looking at something where you have kind of a magocracy plus, throwing a little technology in there too, basically a technocracy, those you get 2 in 1 with that.
Hey, that's Frank Lloyd Wright was an amazing artist. I'm not going to call him an architect. He was an amazing artist.
Yeah, he really kind of elevated the entire thing about architecture.
Yes.
He did, even though Falling Water, his most famous structure, did not have any actual dimensions to it. And the engineers had to, I'm sorry, not the engineers, the people building it had to figure it out as they went, which is why it has foundation problems.
If I'm going to throw books in that list that haven't
Sure.
already named, but for modern, I know it doesn't. You're going bronze, but I think modern magic. There was a book called The Magician. Sci-Fi Channel did a series of it for like 5 seasons called The Magicians.
Oh, Magicians, yeah. It's actually on Netflix, I think.
If you ignore the show, but use the concept that magicians are people that are able to use. Hold on, Garrett. Let me finish.
Read the book. The books are
I
better.
have. I got.
Always read the book. Always read the book.
Yeah, I always read the book. I got the book. I have it on my phone. It's called Audible. It's an amazing thing. Anyways, if you look at the concept that these magicians are really the Fortune 500, they're the ones ruling the world from the side because they have the ability to not break, but bend the universe, the powers of the universe to their
Yeah, they have the
no, it
power
was on
to
MTV. I'm sorry. It was on sci-fi. Made me stop and think there for a second. But be able to break or bend the powers to be to do what they want. It's a very interesting concept for a modern story using magic.
Okay. Yeah, I know that one takes place in the shadows. So does what was that Netflix series? Oh God, what was it called?
I like Librarians.
Librarians,
Librarian. Yep.
yeah, Librarians was fun. Dresden Files, the book, not the TV series.
Oh, come on.
No,
Come on.
no.
It's got executive producer of Nick
No.
Cage. How can this
You
go
know why?
wrong?
Okay, really quick. You know why that
No.
happened? Because he wanted to play Dresden, and they said no. So he said, "Screw it! I'll make my own movie." It was called The Sorcerer's Apprentice, where he literally was dressed up as one Harry fucking Dresden.
Yep.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
did see the
yeah.
movie.
Anyway,
Best thing about that movie was the credits.
All right. So guys, we've hit. We're approaching.
We're at
2
almost-
hours and
wow.
20 minutes. We probably want to cut out. I mean, no
Yeah.
offense. We love you people, and chat. You've been on fire this entire time.
Yes.
If you've not been in chat, you've not been in on fire. But I mean, you've at least been active, interacting, and giving us fun bunny trails to go down to.
Yeah.
As host, I'm going to ask Baron G Rock, what videos do you have upcoming on your docket that you would like to talk about real quick?
Well, I am still working on getting through the 30 or so topics. I did get a couple up this week, but unfortunately, with training, there's a lot of computer side to it also, and not a lot of time to do it at the office. So I've been that's been kind of capitalizing my time this weekend. I hope to do a few to get those up. Also, want to thank everybody. I hit the 300 subscriber mark, so definitely want to thank everybody who has subscribed. I definitely do appreciate it.
You're doing
And
something right, Garrett, because I've been on YouTube for how many years?
I'm closing on you.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been involved for 13 years because I'm an asshole and I don't mind politics deep, deep dives. And then you come out and you have a gaming channel and you're already at 300 gamers or 300 subscribers. I'm at 400. 403, according to my count.
I'm slightly overwhelmed by the response, and I'm definitely humbled by it. And
You're doing it right. Okay. And I congratulate you. I want you to succeed. If this is what you're wanting to do and be good at it, go for it. Please. What else do you have?
More than likely going to wind up on the oh my god, let's see what Max throws at us and have it explode in our face stream. I mean the kill stream tomorrow night.
Yeah, I've got some vodka I got to kill. I'll make sure I whisper Earth on his ear a couple times.
Yeah, but I will be home tomorrow, so I will have the better interwebs.
Good.
So
Jade, how are things on your end?
My end, I'm still, kind of kicking it easy on the weekends. I still work 40-hour-week job. And the last thing I do when I get home is, sit behind a monitor, and because that's what I do all day. The last thing I want to do is sit behind a monitor and critically think. I just want to relax. But on the weekend, I have been trying to put some thought into it. If I make a YouTube channel, I've been trying to figure out what direction I want to go, whether I'm going to go video gaming, live streaming Minecraft or something, or do a tabletop gaming channel where I discuss things like lore dumps for the game world that I'm building, and or getting ready to play and things of that nature. So I'm still kind of deciding what I want to do and how I can be successful with it. 'Cause I'm also doing research, and I do a lot of research. but I'm trying to do some research on what makes channels successful, and how I can make myself different in a way, and still be successful. Because I don't want to just copy another person's strategy or platform if I can avoid it. Because that's just derivative at that point. So that's what I'm working on.
I want you to go for it if you're going to go for it, and I want you to just knock it out of the park. I think you could do a really good channel. I really do.
Don't overthink it.
Yeah, and literally don't overthink it.
That's my curse, though. I overthink everything.
Well, stop that.
It's harder than you think.
I will talk to your wife, and she will whack you in the head.
Oh, well.
I know that's no different than normal, but
I will be in your corners, guys. Connell.
Actually, before we get to Connell, I want to address something.
Uh-oh.
I didn't do it.
There is a 185-pound gorilla in this room, and it's Bruce. And we have not mentioned it, but Bruce went off and eloped and got hitched on Tuesday. And want to say congratulations to you, sir.
Congrats. Yeah.
Welcome to the tie the noose around your neck club. And just remember one thing. Don't piss her off because she knows where you sleep and where all the sharp implements are.
Yeah, I've got a sharpening stone too, and she uses it a lot.
I realize that you live in a warmer part of the country. Yeah, I'll say country. But, a full comforter does not count as a bulletproof vest.
No. And right now, Texas doesn't feel like it's much different than the rest of the nation because today it was down in the 30s. And I know that's not cold for some of you. That's like a warm spring day for my Minnesota brethren. But like, holy cow. If you would have seen all the people dressed up in their best North Face jackets and their baklavas and their scarves and masks.
Right, that's a dessert.
This 30 degrees, and these people are like freezing and like calling for an apocalypse. Oh my God, I've never had been called before. Last year it was down to 17 degrees here, and we had people die. Anyway, appreciate that, Garrett and Jade and Connell and Kai.
Now we can continue with Connell. Sorry about that,
Connell. I'm going to say something to you, and I know we might have a viewer on here, a very special viewer. I'm talking to you, very special viewer. I know you had a conversation with a dude last Friday, like after all the relaxation, or it was last week when you had you were on a special panel with somebody, and I want to say something to you, but it's more pointed at him. I don't care what you do, buddy, but if you're gonna have my name fall out of your mouth, we'll have a discussion one of these days, an honest verbal discussion. But Connell, I would love to see you get tips from Garrett and ask Garrett how he got to 300 fucking subscribers within 2 months. Because there are people that have done this for years and they haven't done it for nearly the amount of enthusiasm that Garrett did. And all Garrett did was he learned, he was quiet, he asked questions, and he'd shut up, he'd listen. And then when it was time for him to take a course syllabus, he knocked it out of the park. Not that other people don't have maybe your best interests in mind, but I think Garrett's probably a better person to follow on that.
It's about learning the algorithm. That's basically what it is. Learning the algorithm, making sure you put the right tags in. That's basically what it boils down to. That's for anybody starting out with it. If you're not tagging your video correctly to get the maximum amount of views and to pull that in. I also think I had a little bit of a leg up because I did have quite a few from my from my Twitch side that did come over. And that there's a bunch of them that I still do communicate with, and I pop in and out of Discords and go, hey, you guys seen my latest video? Blah blah. Yeah, I was kind of selling myself up. So I
you know how to be a broker and do that,
little
and
bit,
that's good.
a little bit.
But Kyle, I
Um,
have the best of wishes for you, man. I do want you
I
to.
appreciate that. I mean, very, very long and story short, I was just trying to find some middle ground. That's all that was.
That's what I summarized from it. I watched about an hour and I turned off.
I
I
just
had miniatures to paint.
fair enough. I am actually working on a video. I do have a video I want to make. I am trying to piece it together to where it actually makes sense. I know I need to stop making four and watching them and just shoot one out there. But I will have one out soon. I promise. You'll find me under the Cigar DM, and it should happen sometime this week, unless the world blows up on me in ways I don't know.
Well, if the world blows up on you, just don't take it personally. It happened to us all. That's all I can say. And Kai, what have you got going on?
This
Sleeping?
this is all I ever do. I haven't got too much shit in my real life to do anything else. This is it.
Okay.
I can
That-
understand and relate to that.
Yeah, as a person who works 60 hours a week, and I'm including my time traveling to work and back, not including that. That's not just that's not just me time at work. That's also going to Lowe's, picking up parts, stuff like that. 60 hours. So
Right.
I get it, Blaine. I
Right
really
now, this week's going to be a 59.5 hour week, and I gotta pack for move in a few months. So yeah, I don't have any free time. I don't. I want to make videos. I don't. This is my only online experience that I'm going to give for the next few months. So also, I turned into a pumpkin about 10 minutes ago. So
You did what 10 minutes ago?
started falling asleep about 10 minutes ago. I'm sorry.
Didn't mean to bore you.
No,
And
no. I'm tired, and it's the end of a day.
It's all right. Biggest Geekus would like to request some of Baron G-Rock's magic subscriber cash over at their
Okay.
channel.
Okay. This is the best advice I can give you. You can actually use this in any walk of life. So this was passed down to me from a very knowledgeable from the sales side. So get your notebook. Suck less, do better. That
All right, Garrett. I was going to play you a song, Garrett. I don't know how long we've got before they force us to be off the interwebs.
well, I myself.
Anyway, that's all I can show because that was you all night. You were
I know.
you were Mr. Roboto.
And trust me, I don't. I feel it.
I do want to say thank you to everybody that showed up in chat early or late. We do have a whole stream here. I'm going to keep it on until the end of the world in about 3.5 hours. But I want you guys to have yourself a good 3.5 hours or rest of the time. Biggest Geekus? No, he did not say you sucked.
We
If
all
he
need to
did-
stop sucking. That's all.
Yeah, growing is not sucking, and you're still growing. Bruce stagnated for a few years. It's fine.
No. Just remember, muscular action closes the hole.
That's my favorite third edition phrase, and I think we should probably. I need to eventually get a hold of a rap musician, and we could totally do this right. From the apartment of not so much solitude anymore. want to thank everybody for stopping by. I want to thank the chat again. I want to thank my panel, my amazing panelists, Jade, Connell, Garrett, Blaine. You guys are just great fun to be with, and it's fun to hear everybody's different ideas. I can't wait to be back here at it next time. I want to talk about maybe wrap up this deep dive on a legacy campaign. The last thing I want to deal with on legacy campaign, you guys kind of touched on it a little bit. Do you remember what you said there, Jade?
Which part?
About 45 minutes ago.
45 minutes ago.
I fell asleep by then.
Was it the consequences or the thinking forward aspect? It's been a long 2 hours.
Okay. Well, mainly we had a discussion, and as we were going along with that, we touched into the political spectrum with the guilds.
Yes.
And
How to set up guilds, governments for political games. That's my notes for next time.
I wanted to get into that and the inter-party politics because I want to get into how you can manipulate your players individually at the same table. And I want to get into that. I think we could fill up 2 hours easy. And if we go spill over like we're spilling over right now, that's fine too. But from the apartment, I appreciate everybody stopping by tonight. John and Leah, thank you so much for helping him out and for being a good member in chat. Everybody, have yourself a great week. We will see you tomorrow night over at the Legion of Myth YouTube channel. Legion of Magic, yeah.
Magic!
Yeah, and read some Harry Dresden books, for crying out loud, people. If you're not having a good time with life, read those. You'll be in a better place. And make sure your cup is always full. Have a great night.
Night, everybody.
Bye.